Hey everyone, it's Mark here. Long time no see. Just wanted to let everybody know that I'm still around and just took the summer off to pursue some other interests and projects. But now, what a perfect time to come back to give you guys my first impression of the F-16C Viper, just recently released by Eagle Dynamics. So I have had a little bit of time to play with the F-16C already. Just turn this engine off for a second while I speak. So I have had a few, I'd say about an hour and a half total flight time in the F-16C already. I've had a chance to set up my controls, at least the vital ones. Um, just to kind of get the thing in the air and fly it around and test it out. And I'm just going to go through a flight now and just kind of show everybody uh, what I found with the aircraft and yeah, just kind of show off what it can do and let you know a little bit about my personal feelings on the aircraft. And yeah, we'll just kind of go through and see what happens. It's always a mixed bag of what we're going to get. I can practice a mission about 1,000 times and do it perfectly every time. And then when I go to do it for the channel, it always seems to go crazy. And I guess that's part of the fun. So we'll go ahead and get this guy off the ground. I'm not going to be doing any like radio communication or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of skip all that for today and just sort of fly around and see what happens. I'm pretty sure we're going to encounter some uh, hostile aircraft and such, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes. Without further ado. So right off the bat, first things that I did set up were the obviously the stick and throttle, rudder pedals, wheel brakes, also a little bit of the radar. So if you can see on the MFD, I'm able to scroll my cursor around. That's kind of a must for locking up targets. I have some switches set up for selecting targets on this radar screen. A button for flaps, chaff and flare dispensing, just kind of like the basics. And as much as you like to just jump in and fly, definitely with DCS, I've noticed you do, no matter what, you got to take at least a few minutes and figure out some controls. And it's anything but basic. Because there are so many critical things that you need to really fly an aircraft properly, especially if you're going to be looking at any kind of combat or anything like that. So off we go. The first thing I set up was the nose wheel steering. It's off by default, so once you start taxiing, if you don't have a button to enable that, you're going to find yourself on the grass pretty quick. I do find this aircraft a little bit more sensitive, touchy, finicky for taxiing than the Hornet. I'm going to do a ton of comparisons with the Hornet because A, it's the aircraft I probably know best, and B, it's probably the most similar aircraft in DCS to compare to. So yeah, very, very touchy. I would say a little bit more difficult to keep under control and steer. You seem to notice the tripod effect a lot more with this aircraft. It will tip if you turn it too quickly, which makes sense. Obviously, you got to be careful on the ground. And I find it a lot more difficult to keep straight on the runway, as you're probably about to see here. So usually what I do is get it all nice and lined up, and then I'll just disengage that nose wheel steering, even though that'll leave us without any kind of control until we get enough airspeed, enough air over the rudder to allow us to turn with just that. Either way, I've been dropping the flaps. So the other thing I should say, I don't actually know how to fly this aircraft. I've loved this aircraft since I was a kid, but I know nothing about the real detailed workings of it. So you're going to hear me making a lot of mistakes in the way I operate the aircraft and such. But like I said, this is just a kind of a first impression video anyways. So yeah, I think you guys all understand what I'm going for here and where I'm at. Obviously, we're going to be learning the aircraft in the future. Hopefully I'll be doing some tutorials and lessons for particular systems. Okay, so I engage full afterburner, and you can see right away, it's a bit of a windy day in this scenario, but just wow, right off the bat, it just sharp veer. Okay, and then we're off the ground. Got some gear, put up those flaps. And once it's in the air, it's a dream, in my opinion. It sort of just does what you want it to do. It's very difficult to get it to misbehave. I have had, I think, one situation where I got it to a spin, but it was very easily recovered. Just looking at the console here, I love how the throttle, it's so well marked on the sidewall there. There's, you can see different kind of detentes and even painted lines there to say, okay, that's your 0 power mark. Up here, right before this notch, you'll see, I don't know if you can see this notch here. So that's like your full power, and then right there you can see it goes into afterburner for this section, and you can see how the throttle kind of clicks into that detente as you go into that afterburner kind of section of the throttle throw there. So I really like that. It's easy to, just with that kind of separation you have with simulation, it's nice to have just something to quick glance down and see, to easily know whether you're in kind of afterburner or just regular power there. Something I kind of miss in the Hornet. It's difficult to tell if you're in afterburner or not. With this, it's really easy. You can tell there's a different angle to the throttle stick and also that little notch. That just makes it easy to just quickly glance down and tell where you're at. So anyways, maybe we'll just play around with the flight envelope a bit here. So if I throw throttle to 0, just kind of try and stall the aircraft. The fly-by-wire system is actually quite incredible. It seems to really keep the aircraft under control well, even when you're not doing your best job flying it. Now, that being said, I don't know how much of the flight model is perfected at this point and how much more work there is to do. This is technically early access, so who knows what tweaks need to be made, but off the bat, it doesn't feel too bad. I have heard complaints about the aircraft's ability at higher altitudes where it can do way too much, can get a little too high, a little too fast, stuff like that. I'm sure that will be corrected over time. But just for flying around so far, the basics are there. I mean, you can't get too worried about that stuff right off the bat. You just got to have fun and be patient, wait till they get everything in that they want to get in. I'm not the type of person that's gets just all uptight about that kind of stuff. You know, it'll come when they get to it, and hopefully the sooner the better, but obviously these things take time to get right. So now we're operating at a pretty low speed, just pulling up on the aircraft. You know, I'll throw some rudder here to the left. You know, the aircraft kind of banks over, nose drops, but it's really challenging to get it to do anything, you know, really drastic here. It's flopping over a bit there, but right away back under control. You know, it's easy right now. I feel like all I have to do is dip the nose forward and then I'll get everything back, and that's exactly what it is. Let the nose drop and we have control of the aircraft. So pretty decent, pretty fun to fly. When I was a kid, I had this plastic model kit of the F-16 cockpit, and I used to love it. I used to just get right down to its level and put my eyes right behind the seat and just stare down into it and pretend I was sitting in the cockpit of an F-16. I really had a thing for this jet as a kid, and honestly, it was probably my all-time favorite fighter aircraft until DCS released the F-18, and I got a chance to learn that kind of at that level, and that really made me fall in love with the Hornet. But now I'm feeling, now that I've got a chance to sit in this aircraft that I've spent so much time thinking about as a kid. It is kind of stealing my attention away from the Hornet quite quickly. Yeah, it looks like we've got a bogey, so let's investigate what's going on here. So I lock him up on radar, switch to air-to-air mode. I get a nice indication of where he's at in the air. I'm also going to turn on my helmet-mounted cueing system just to give us a better idea. Also, enable chaff and flare there, just in case something gets hostile here. So he's currently just over 40. Oh, got my labels turned on. Just caught a glimpse of someone else there I probably shouldn't have seen. Now, most of my videos, like my tutorials and lessons, I try to do just in like a standard mode, not in VR mode. I realize, or I'm aware that in VR the view is quite shaky, and just because I was kind of doing this live, that's the only reason we're doing it in VR. And just so you know, most of the time, those of you who have seen some of my other videos know that for tutorials and whatnot, I do try to get away from VR just to make the video a little more stable, a little bit easier to watch. Okay, looks like we lost our track on that guy. It's probably when we switched. I've noticed that a few times. Again, this is my inexperience with the aircraft. It's kind of causing issues. So now, yeah, we've lost track on that guy. Let's see if we can dig him up again. There's a tell right there. Don't even need to really use the radar. See this guy coming in right now. Oh! Would you look at that? I think we may have lost some power here. Let's see. Fox 3, I don't think that it's going to take. Oh, maybe. Let's see how it goes here. I am definitely having trouble finding these bandits. I know they're around. I've kind of gotten stuck in a radar mode where I don't know how to disengage. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Altitude. Altitude.
So what seems to happen is whenever I change weapon, The radar drops the lock. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way. It seems a little unusual that it would drop the lock just because you changed your weapon, but I guess it's a possibility. Either way, I had this guy locked up and I had him on radar, but as soon as I switched to the shorter range missiles, it seemed to lose the lock. So, let's see if we can find him again. I don't know what he's doing out here, he just seems to be kind of floating around. There it is.
Altitude. Altitude.
Lost it again. Okay, well, for the sake of finding something here, I'm just going to turn on my labels, because I am not having any luck finding this guy. Oh, there we go. They're way over there now. Let's go see if we can take these guys down. Wow. This radar just popping all over the place. Something weird going on there. Yeah, there's like, the radar's just throwing these guys everywhere. It's not making a lot of sense. Definitely some strangeness happening there, and yeah, and then it drops the lock. It's such a bizarre thing. Oh, there's somebody. Splash one. Where did the other guy go? Man, it is impossible to see these guys without labels. They could be right in front of you and you just can't see them. Okay, well. This is a mode I really like with the Sidewinder, is this bore sight.
Bingo.
You can just kind of look at a target to lock it up. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's pretty fun. So that mode, you just you arm your Sidewinders and then you just go from slave to bore sight mode, and you have your helmet mounted cueing system on, and then you can just simply look at the target, and as long as the seeker head can see the target you're looking at from the angle that you're at, it will be able to track it. So that was a little bit of a wonky kind of air combat scenario there. Just the systems weren't really working the way that I was expecting them to. And like I said earlier on, practice these things 1,000 times and they never go to plan when I'm streaming. So c'est la vie. Okay, so now just go fly around a little bit more, see if we can find our way home. We do have a fuel situation on our hands here, so let's see if we can find a good place to land. Just go to the external views of the aircraft really quick. Throw it on autopilot here for a second.
Altitude. Altitude.
So,
Altitude.
getting ready to land here. Not one of my strong points with this aircraft yet. Definitely a little bit different than landing a Hornet. Seems, again, a little bit more finicky, but that could just be lack of experience talking. Let's see what we get this time. What I found is I'm coming in a little too steep all the time and just really hard on the landing gear. Like, the landing is successful, but I feel like were this real life, I'd probably get a pretty hard talking to from my commanding officer or whoever it may be that would be grading my landings. Let's see if I can get things a little smoother this time. Pretty good crosswind on this one, so it doesn't make it any easier. The F-18, there's no flare or anything like that. With this aircraft, definitely seems that you need to flare once you kind of get to your position on the runway where you want to touch down. Still feel like I'm a little fast here. Get that nose up a bit. Reduce throttle. Flare.
Altitude.
Touchdown. Yeah.
Altitude.
Just bounced a little bit. Yeah, not the cleanest landing. but that'll come with practice again. Enable that nose wheel steering. Okay. So we'll, I think we'll just maybe try that again. This time we'll leave the labels on so we're not finicky or fussing around with the radar system quite as much. It was a pain in the butt to find those guys, and with my lack of experience combined with that, yeah, it wasn't as quick or exciting as I hoped. So why not? Let's go through one more time with our labels on. Okay, so nose wheel steering on, taxi to the runway. So one of the things I noticed there's with the wheel brakes on this aircraft are very they don't grab like the Hornet's wheel brakes, or at least it seems that way. And again, I know very little about this, but I did find on the console, or on the left console here, there is a button labeled brakes channel 1, channel 2, and I have noticed when I switch to channel 2, the brakes seem to respond more like I'm used to. Just a little bit sharper. So that's something that may help somebody. I don't know if you guys know like what the actual, why the difference, or why that's there, why there's 2 brake channels. Please let me know in the comments. I'm definitely eager to learn about this aircraft. I'll switch it back to channel 1 for now. Okay, nose wheel steering is off. Flaps on. And here we go. Again, fighting that crosswind really hard on takeoff there. Gear up, flaps up. Just a beautiful, like once it's in the air, it's just a dream. So smooth. For as finicky as it is on the ground that I've found so far, as soon as it's in the air, it's just incredible. Just climbs so well, just handles so well in general. Now, conversely, I have tried it with a heavier load, and it definitely does change. And obviously, if you load up the aircraft, it's going to handle slower. and it is quite noticeable on the F-16. Once you get a few heavy bombs on there, it definitely slows down the responsiveness and makes it a little bit harder to maneuver and harder to turn, obviously. And that's expected, but I do feel like that kind of the difference is more pronounced in this aircraft because I think it is smaller than the Hornet and obviously only one engine. You just feel that difference a lot more readily. Okay, let's see if we can find us some bad guys. Take them out a little bit more expediently this time. Let's see if the AWACS can get us pointed in the right direction here.
Dark Star, Pontiac 1-2, request bogey dope.
That's right, I got to tune our radio for that.
Dark Star, Pontiac 1-2, request bogey dope.
Turns out I don't know how to work the radio either. That's fine. Contacts. So some symbology for this, obviously the square is our radar contact that we've locked. Further down here on the right, this 1350 is our rate of closure to the target, and then this, they call it a staple or a bracket. Kind of the top layer here would be our kind of within range for our currently armed missile. The line in the middle, you can barely see it right now because it's kind of squashed, but there's a line kind of a quarter of the way up the staple.
Bra 231 445 at 35,000 hot.
That is kind of the point of no escape, I guess, for the enemy.
Dark Star, passing waypoint 4
and then the
at
minimum range is the bottom of the
25,000.
staple.
Pontiac 1-2, Dark Star, Bra 246 450 at 35,000 hot.
Turn our radios down a touch there. Weapons armed. Chaff and flare. So now you can see our 1410 is again the rate of closure, and it's the little arrow or caret is now pointing into the staple, which means we are within firing range. You can see the circle on the weapon is getting larger, also indicating that we're getting within firing range. And it's dropped us lock. Perfect. Not quite sure why that keeps happening. Let's just go for a bulldog here and see what happens. So bulldog firing without a lock, and it looks like the AMRAAM is tracking. And we have a hit.
Dark Star merged.
So I'm going to switch to my sidewinders. And we're going to use the bore sight aiming mode. So now you can see I have a diamond in the middle of my helmet mounted cueing system. I can just point that diamond onto this target and launch my sidewinder, and it's away, it's tracking him, which is incredible. Okay, and that's a second direct hit on that F5, so I'm going to go ahead for now and just say that he's taken care of. And we'll go after the second guy here. We've got one sidewinder left, so we'll try and see if we can use the cueing system again to lock this guy up.
Dark Star, Bra, 22742 at 19,000, flanking. Pontiac 1-2, Dark Star, Bra, 00242 at 9,000, flanking.
Beautiful, just beautiful. The bore sight mode with the helmet cueing system is it's just incredible. Like, you can pretty much just, you know, the look of death. You just look at the guy, and if you get that tone, you just let it go, and that guy's done for. It's a pretty incredible piece of technology and fun to use, that's for sure.
Altitude. Altitude.
Okay, so that's a little bit more how I hoped the first stint would go, just a nice quick encounter. Didn't work out that way. Oh, here's an interesting thing I've noticed, this fluttering. So when the aircraft gets kind of over speed, I don't know again if this is a bug or if this is normal behavior, but if you start to see that jittering, if you reduce the aircraft speed, it just goes away. So I don't know again what that is. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments if that's real or just a bug in the simulation. It does seem like a strange thing to have with an aircraft like this, but again, you just never know. The little ins and outs that you never really hear about. It's a great opportunity to learn with a study level simulator like this. Okay, we'll make our way back and we'll get to try one more landing here before I wrap things up for today. Just kind of a quick stream. Sorry for the technical issues, but as always, when you're doing something live, pretty much always happens. So just to kind of update you guys on what's been going on, like I said earlier, I've been kind of gone over the summer months here, working on other projects, but plan to be back for the fall and winter to kind of bring back some more tutorials and videos your way. I think the plan is to continue focusing on the Hornet, even though the F-16 is the latest and greatest. I think I will kind of branch into that as time goes on, and I do believe that there is planned to be a lot of overlap in terms of development between the Hornet and the F-16, between the Hornet and the Viper. So that may give me an opportunity to actually overlap tutorials in some way or another. Obviously, if you're going to get into the minutia of operating it, it's going to be different for each aircraft. So we'll see how that goes. It might end up just being that I'll focus on a certain topic and then do a video for each aircraft, or perhaps I'll just stick with the Hornet for now and move on to the Viper later. So either way, lots of plans for more videos over the winter, and hopefully you guys will be able to stay tuned in for that. Also wanted to try some cinematic videos this year. DCS can be incredibly frustrating in that regard, but also very fun and very rewarding if you get it right. You can get some incredible shots if you have the patience and the skill to kind of get in there and pull them off. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled on my channel, and I'll be bringing you guys as much as I can in the near future. So in the meantime, let's see. I'm just gonna take a quick peek here. See where we're at. Oh yeah, okay, we're pretty much on track to Invodi, which is where we're trying to get to. It's one thing that I haven't found so far. I don't know if it exists in this version of the Viper, is the map. The Hornet is, you know, it's a quick glance down to the middle MFD, and you can kind of figure out where you are pretty quickly, but I haven't found that with this yet. I don't know if it's not implemented or if it's just not a feature in the Viper. But yeah, it's been a little bit harder for me to just kind of navigate without setting up waypoints and such, which again I haven't learned how to do yet. I'm sure it's not overly difficult, especially if you're using the mission editor, but to program in waypoints into the aircraft, I'm sure it involves this this display here and obviously your UFC, but haven't quite taken the time to figure that out yet.
Dark Star, passing waypoint 6 at 25,000.
Altitude. 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 Altitude.
Dark Star is RTB at 23,000.
Altitude. Altitude. Altitude.
Okay, so there it is. Now, I don't think that in a position to tell you whether or not to buy this module or anything like that, and that's not the intention of this video. Um, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's in early access, so there are a ton of bugs and things that are not implemented yet. So all those things kind of play in, and so the decision of whether or not you would buy it or something, that totally is up to you as a person, what you prefer. I know so many people say, oh, I've been burned by early access and that's not my thing. And that's completely fair, completely understandable. I can see how frustrating it can be to deal with stuff that's not finished. And but on the other hand, I personally enjoy kind of seeing the process, watching it go. I kind of do feel like I can sort of be patient with the development, and you know there's definitely days where I feel frustrated with how things progress, but ultimately I enjoy watching this process and kind of being part of it. So yeah, um, again, it's really up to you. I think it's got a huge amount of potential. I really enjoy flying the aircraft, and I think that it has a lot to offer. So just things for you to take into account if you are still considering purchasing. For those of you that already have, I hope you're enjoying it like I am, and I look forward to kind of putting out some more tutorials and whatnot for everybody to take in, and of course all the other people that do your own tutorials and stuff like that. I looking forward to watching them. It's a great community that we all seem to really have a real passion for this, and it's so awesome seeing all the incredible stuff that the community comes up with this game. So, anyways, I won't keep you people any longer. I want to thank you so much if you're taking time to watch this video, or even if you tuned in live. Appreciate it so much, and hope to see you again in my next video. So take care, and thanks for watching.